Righto, welcome to Crypto Kings Down Under. This is Leon. I'm here with Arden, and we're here for our first episode of the Dip. Arden, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. We create a new segment called the Dip.
Yeah,
Surviving the Dip. Living
That's
through
it.
the Dip.
That's it. We've all just pretty much copped one up the butt from the Dip over the last 2 weeks. So we thought we'd dedicate a segment to basically all things crypto, but trying to take a bit of a lighthearted approach to the shit show or the shit shows that can occur, similar to this. I guess the Luna crash, a few things to discuss this episode. Also, probably talk about economic markets around the world, what we're seeing happen, bit of inflationary discussion, a few different things to check out. Pretty excited to get into it, Ards. How about you?
Yeah, mate, let's do it.
All right, let's go. Obviously, had a bit of a crash last 2 weeks. Bit of a crash. Pretty much anyone that got in the last 2 years is gone. And anyone that was here before that is sticking around with about a tenth of what they had 12 months ago. So everything's great. How's your portfolio hanging up?
Yeah, man, I just don't look at it. Some of it, I had a look actually the other day. I did have a look at one of my OKX accounts, and could have sworn I had Luna in there. Who knows where that went?
Yeah.
Lucky it wasn't large sums, man. But
what a shit show, huh?
Luna, what a shit show.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I don't know, man. I just think look away for now. Get into some other things, crypto. One thing I will sort of say is I think we've seen this before. You know that, bro. Like 2017, we were at the highs of the highs and thought we were legends, and then saw this exact same thing. Prolonged bear market. One of the mistakes you and I have talked about before, though, was staying out of the game and not keeping a finger on the pulse as closely as we could have with crypto.
Yep.
And even though we made a bit of money this last bull market, we could have made a hell of a lot more if we'd been focused on the charts, keeping up with projects that we enjoyed, and staying involved in the space. We could have definitely cost averaged there at the bottom a lot better. So I guess that's going to be the idea of this. We'll talk some shit on here, have a laugh,
have a bit of fun.
Maybe have a bit of fun and dig into other stuff.
Try and keep a bit of a heartbeat. Yeah, try and keep a bit of a heartbeat happening while everything's gone dead. Have a bit of fun with it at the same time, because it's not that fun most of the time when the shit hits the fan and your portfolios are down like this. So we were just having a look at the charts earlier, Ards, and saying that there's definitely more downside potential. We've put in a bit of a bottoming pattern, but we've put in how many of these bottoming patterns over the last fucking 6 months, and every single time we fail it or break up from it slightly, have a fake false breakout, and then shit the bed and keep tumbling. Like you said, DCAing's a great option, but there comes a point in time where you start to run out of capital, or like you said, if you haven't been through this previously, it's easy to be scared off after all these pullbacks. So for those of you out there, not financial advice, but from two blokes that have been through a dip like this and much worse, just hang on, guys, because there will be blue skies again. It's just this is how it is. Without these pullbacks, these massive pullbacks, you can't see those exponential gains. We were sort of having a bit of a chat off camera, Ards, before we jumped on, just about like sort of the potential. Is there any potential for Bitcoin to be crashed fully, and that we're in the wrong investment game? And I said, look, let's get that in there. Let's talk about that. So run us.
Well, look, it's obviously something that crosses your mind, and especially when things go to shit, sort of, I guess, what everyone thinks, the fear is high. everyone starts thinking, could it go to zero? So it's worth exploring that idea. Now, we talked about the lunar crash and basically the vulnerability in their system with Lunar and Anchor. I won't get right into it because I don't know the exact ins and outs of how to explain that, but basically they got shorted down to zero in what looks like an attack. Now, a couple of things I guess we've got to say, well, if Bitcoin's been around for coming on 12 years now, you've got to think in your head that every single hacker, programmer, cryptographer, whoever would have been trying to destroy it. So that's a very good positive for Bitcoin, that like, look, it hasn't been hacked, it hasn't 100%. Been destroyed.
Yeah.
Gives me a lot of faith. The sort of scenario where I was putting to you, where could it be not taken to zero, but could it be controlled? I guess is my only concern is if you have a big institution like, let's call it a Vanguard or BlackRock, entities with the money to buy up as much Bitcoin as they want, and then do with it what they will. I guess to me that's the only sort of vulnerability that Bitcoin has. If we think about every time Bitcoin has one of these mega crashes, that these entities are just sneaking in and buying up more and more Bitcoin and controlling more and more of it, or controlling the mining and the nodes as well. And I guess that's a vulnerability there, right? They could just say, well, we own all the Bitcoin now, what are you going to do with it? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know, I guess that's something to think about.
Yeah. And then I guess my rebuttal to that was just that, it's definitely plausible, but and it's definitely plausible. We know that, the money, the economic systems around the world are basically rigged already, and that had taken a lot of work and a shitload of wealth. So they've obviously got the wealth there to do it. It's just about whether they could get their fingers in there in a way to do that, I guess. And these sorts of big crashes are definitely the opportunities, like you were saying, where there's these big dips in the market where if they're ready, they could have liquidated, massive stock positions or bond positions, whatever, and have capital sitting there waiting for this dip, even causing the dip by poor financial policies, rah, rah, rah. Let's not get into it too much, but, there's any number of ways that they can manipulate markets and then buy in at bulk. But look, I guess I'm a bit of a believer that, the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, hopefully there's enough varied users out there, and enough users or suppliers of nodes, etc., to keep it decentralized.
I would think, I tend to agree. I think another important sort of takeaway from it is that, while we have our crypto on the exchanges, it's not really our crypto. So, especially now with like all of these, same as traditional markets, we've got like leverage we can use, where we're not even trading Bitcoin itself, we're trading the futures on it and stuff like that. So I think that if you do have any holdings that are your long-term holdings of Bitcoin, it just shows the importance of maybe putting that on your Trezor wallet or taking it off the exchanges, because I kind of think like if there is an attack on Bitcoin, there's an attack on these exchanges, like next attack they might try and take down Coinbase, for example, or Binance, which I think is highly unlikely. But I know news came out last week that Coinbase actually has a clause in there which says that if they go bankrupt, basically their customers' crypto can be used as collateral to shore up their debts. So basically that means you can sit there thinking like, hey, Bitcoin price hasn't crashed anymore, I'm sweet. But if there's an attack or something on Coinbase, and they go bankrupt, they take your damn Bitcoin anyway. So
much the same as banks. So that's where
it's the same as a bank. It's the same as a bank right now.
It's basically demonstrating that these exchanges take away the decentralized nature of cryptocurrency. So if you want to be fully decentralized, you need to have, like you're saying, in at least a MetaMask, like a digital wallet, if not more a hardware wallet, completely off chain, and then you really are controlling your own finances and your assets. Definitely
and that
important.
goes for anything, like you said, man. It's the same as the banks. Everyone freaks out when it's crypto, but banks been doing that forever, and you don't even blink an eyelid, bat an eyelid. So probably a key thing to take some off the exchanges when it's unpredictable times. When it's the bull run and it's pumping, you're not going to take it off exchanges because you want to flip it. What else? What else do you want to chat about?
Look, we were sitting there. I think we were starting to get into like the other sort of shit that's going on around the world as well. Like the stock market's crashing. They're way overdue. I might fuck bringing up the screen, but we can just continue to discuss that. So
S&P's tanked. Dow Jones is tanked. Funnily enough, the US dollar is rallying.
It's just pumping. I know. How's the US dollar? This is what I want to know, all right? This is what we need to talk about on the dip. How the fuck is the US dollar not dipping? With everything that's going on, how the fuck is that not, you know what I mean? Like, man, they got a bloke that's running the country that can't even spell his own name or walk up a set of stairs. Man,
he's
like
asleep half the time, man.
And their dollar's cranking now somehow.
Yeah. I think it's a manipulation. All this stuff's a manipulation.
It's all a fucking joke,
We've
man.
talked about that before. We know that. All right. So Bitcoin's tanked. Stock markets have tanked worldwide, but gold hasn't rallied.
I've seen that as well. Gold and silver, I saw, have had a dip as well, and we're having inflation. It's common knowledge. If you listen to the news, inflation is happening, but we're not seeing commodities inflate. I've been watching that as well, mate. Because like everyone, you and I both know we're long silver bugs, and supporters of those markets, and you wait for times like this, like, righto, we're going to have a pump. No, it's been tanking. Like, it's an absolute fucking joke. Everything's a joke. The whole, post-COVID, COVID was the setup, in my opinion. This is what the dip's here for. We're going to say shit that people aren't going to want to hear, but I don't really give a shit. In my opinion, COVID was the setup for all of this shit. It was, it was a flu. I'm not denying that COVID is a flu. Where it come from, whether it came from a bat or someone's asshole, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I do believe that it's an actual flu. But it was the flu, for fuck's sake, man. And it was going to kill people. Unfortunately, that's what flus do. They kill the vulnerable, the elderly and the young and the weak. When you get the flu, you get fucking bad, it kills you. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Anybody who lost someone via COVID or anything related to COVID, condolences. No disrespect by any means, but I do believe that and look, it killed some healthy people randomly as well, supposedly. But I'm sure the flu does that as well. You get the random healthy guy that's, hasn't had his fucking protein shake for the week or something, and fucking it kicks him over as well. Look, at the end of the day, it was just a flu that was blown out of proportions. And in my opinion, we've known, anybody who knows economics, who's had their finger on the pulse of the fiat currencies and the way that they've been tracking the last 15, 20 years, probably longer, but I've only been in the space 10 or so myself. Excuse me, guys. Anyone that sort of understands the way our economies work know that they've been waiting for a massive correction, crash, inflationary event to occur because of the amount of printing that's occurred since 2007, 2008 GFC. You cannot print like, you can't, with the way that our systems work, you can't just borrow excessive amounts of money, flush it into your economy, and then not create massive debt. That's all they're doing by doing that. And they call it economic stimulus and fucking, what did they call it?
Quantitative easing.
Quantitative easing. That's the word. And they labelled it that, and you know, it was easing fuck all. All it eased was nothing, mate. It made everything 10 times worse, but just kicked the can down the road and just kicked it and kicked it and kicked it. And in my opinion, they've been waiting and waiting, and then when this COVID came along, it was the perfect fucking opportunity to jump in, make something, some worldwide fucking occurrence, you know, pandemic, that then is going to have flow-on effects. And, you know, these lockdowns that they had, did we need to lock down? There's been countries around the world that didn't lock down that showed that they coped just as well as the countries that did lock down. You know, and I'm not going to get into the exact statistics. That's not what we're here for, is a debate on COVID. But what we are going to say is, man, there was ways of coping without lockdowns that didn't affect your country's economy, and meant that your country could have continued to trade and internationally trade and do as it was without having these massive effects with supermarket supply chain, you know, all that sort of bullshit. No fucking toilet paper on the shelves. Like, it was all ridiculous, man. And the flow-on effects that have come to our economies over that, when you take into account all of the debt because of all these stimulus packages, the job seeker program in Australia. Like, I can talk about Australia. I'm not sure about countries abroad too much. But fuck the stimulus packages that we had here. Man, a bloke come up from Sydney I played poker with. Now, I don't know how true this is, but I don't think he's a shit-talking type. And he was saying that he'd opened a company in his name and in his wife's name down in Melbourne, because it meant that they got a $30,000 fucking government grant. And he got $60K for the last 6 months by doing one in his name, one in his missus's name. Now, I know for a fact those sort of grants were available in Queensland. I don't know any personally that took advantage of those, but I know businesses. I was a part of a business that was utilising the job seeker program. We had staff that we'd usually have to pay for anyway, that the government was paying for. They were just paying their weekly wage up to $1,500 or some shit. And we got 20, 30 staff out in the field that we don't have to pay anymore because they're getting that. Now, problem with that was, then there was the other side of it. Well, work was quiet, and then these guys know that they're getting $1,500 a week on a JobKeeper payments to just be sitting on their ass at home. So, would you prefer to actually come into work or stay at home and sit on the couch if you're getting $1,500 and you're one of them lazy motherfuckers with no fucking, you know, no spine in you, no work, you know? Yeah, sorry, getting carried away, but, you know, it fucked the business from that side too, because then businesses were struggling, and this is where they talk about there's a lack of employees, and you see it in businesses everywhere, because the job seeker program meant that it was easier for people to sit at home and earn money than it was to go into work, as long as you were under a certain income bracket. That's fucking ridiculous, you know. And then, so there's no employees, the government paid for this, which then creates a massive fucking debt that all of the taxpayers have to pay back. And you know what I mean? It's a fucking joke. And then 6 months later, 12 months later, 24 months later, whatever you want to call it, this is where we're at. And we've been waiting for this shit to happen. And if you've been watching Crypto Kings Down Under, we've been saying this shit for how long? I hope people stand up. I hope people actually watch this video and start to realise and listen, if they haven't been, that this shit isn't out of nowhere. If you were looking and waiting for it, it's just, man, and this is the tip of the fucking iceberg. What's coming is going to be ridiculous. Like, we're going to hit hyperinflation, in my opinion, man. Like, they're trying all these sort of things to stop it, man. But, like, and everyone's crying out for wage increase. I've been crying out for wage increase for the last 15 fucking years. Man, I've been going on about this. 15, 20 years ago, I started in the rail. Today, you get paid the same wage. When I started my first week, new entry level guys this today's day and age, if they do the same hours that I did back then, they probably get a little bit less now than I did 20 years ago when I started in the rail. Now, wage growth's been lacking, and we definitely need wage growth. But the thing that people don't realise is that we can't afford the wage growth. Businesses can't afford that. Businesses are going to have to increase the fucking prices of their products if wage growth happens to be able to account for that, because businesses are already making fucking nothing unless they're massive corporations. The small businesses are getting squeezed down to fuck all. Anyone that's a small business owner that's watching this, you're sitting there nodding your head because you know that I'm right. And this is what's occurring, and it's all because of poor economic fucking, you know.
I think you've got to realise that what it actually is intentional.
That's exactly right.
So, like, we look now, things are going to go up in price. There's supply chain issues, all the rest of it. Okay, so is the government going to step in and give us more JobKeeper, JobSeeker, whatever you want to call it, stimulus payments? No, they gave it to us when we didn't actually need it at the beginning of COVID. Now there's a massive giant debt bubble that's got to pop. So they didn't actually give it to you because they cared about you. They did it as a systematic way to steal wealth from us and from our future generations, right? So the thing that's pissed me off the most about when I hear about people with the vaccination and all the rest of it, I don't care if you believe in getting vaxxed or whatever, but you need to recognise that it wasn't free. And nothing annoys me more than when people say something is free from the government. Nothing is ever free from the government. You are paying for it with your taxes, and more than likely your kids and your kids' kids are going to be paying for it with their taxes. So governments don't do anything, they don't produce anything, and I think that's the idea that people have to get into their head, is that nothing's ever free from the government. You will pay for it down the track.
And the governments originally were created to look out for us, and now they're businesses. Sorry, mate, you keep going.
Yeah, they are. They are. And the Australian government, we have election coming up. You know, hopefully we can throw some of these major parties out, but I think there's a problem globally that is now starting to surface thanks to COVID. It's probably one of the good things that came out of COVID, is there's now a light being shone on corruption of the world, corruption of our governments through the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, these self-elected organizations and committees becoming exposed. You've got, go and look up Hunter Biden's laptop and go and look up Biden family and you know, Obama and the Clintons and all of their corruption, right? BlackRock, Vanguard. So I think what's happening now is there's this systematic collapse being formed, being created, so that we can bring in central bank digital currencies, which is basically, you know, the Rothschilds IMF banking cartel 2.0, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
And we're not talking Bitcoin or other cryptos that we know. We're talking their own crypto. That is, sign up to this. This is the way we'll get you out of the shit.
Something
US
like
fucking
collapsed. The Facebook
Everything's
one.
collapsed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be, this is what they're moving towards,
Yeah.
right? Then this is why, in my opinion, you're seeing asset classes like gold and silver that were typical hedges against inflation and a safe haven when the stock markets and crypto markets, everything else were going to shit, still not performing. They're controlled and manipulated. And I believe that what's occurring is this systematic collapse, and we're all desperate and we're all fighting over toilet paper again worldwide with these food shortages and whatever. You're going to swoop in with a solution and say, you know, global coin or whatever it is, come and just scan this and you signed up for it, and we'll give you this income, we'll give you this welfare check or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But you have to use our currency. That is the way that we're heading. That's the way, the reason that I still believe in Bitcoin, because I think it's one of our few chances that we have, along with gold and silver, which we can physically hold, to have our own sovereignty and not be forced into this central bank digital currency. So
And that's
who knows, man? We'll see how it plays out. But I think that the COVID was definitely, I agree with you, man, that COVID was the catalyst that set all of this in motion, like, right, this is the time to pounce. I do think there'll be a lot more pain still for the traditional markets and for the crypto markets, unfortunately. And I do think that silver and gold are probably going to lag before they have a pump as well. So, doom and gloom.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Doom and gloom, mate. I like that. That's a good episode, mate. Thanks for your insight, Arden. Thanks to everyone for listening to me have a fucking rant and a cry, and get carried away and then forget words that I'm trying to say.
What I want to finish up with, though, bro, if I can say one thing to finish up, right?
Yep.
So, keep your finger on the pulse. Stay in the crypto space. Use the time now while things aren't exciting and you're not refreshing, your block folio every day, every 5 minutes to see how much money you're making. Use the time to hone the skill, sharpen the sword. If you like trading, get into trading. If you like NFTs, read up about the NFTs. Stay active in the communities.
Yeah.
Because this will be the time that you'll make money. Is when you're honing the skill, getting better, dollar cost averaging in.
Yeah.
Keeping a finger on the pulse. So yeah.
Yeah, we've all been
Drop
burned.
in and say good day.
Everyone's down. Everyone's copped it from the dip. But the dip is the time to be buying, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon. Get amongst it. Crypto Kings Down Under.
See you guys.
All right.